This is Talk the Devils, the athletics show dedicated to Manchester United. Coming up today, Manchester United are back on a field this weekend, back in action in their pre-season match against Leeds, but there'll be no Andre Onana. We'll ask the question exactly what impact his injury will have on Manchester United's summer transfer plans, and we'll also debate what's in a number. There's been some changes with Manchester United's squad numbers over the summer. It's caused some controversy in the past, so we'll get into that. You might also find out why I sound a little bit hoarse. We're back in the studio here in Manchester. Carl and Laurie with us, so hello to everyone who is watching this or listening to this, wherever you are, on whatever format. It's good to have you with us. And Andy is also joining us on the line from home as well. Hello, Andy.
Hello, lads. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's good to be back, isn't it? Let's get straight into it then. The season's not started. The pre-season action hasn't started, but there's an injury already.
Yes, Andre Onana. It's a hamstring injury, and they're expecting it to be a few weeks. So obviously, with these kind of injuries, you never know exactly the time frame. But it rules him out from pre-season tour of USA, certainly, and basically puts a race against time, shall we say, for that opening game against Arsenal. Now, obviously, a lot of people might have looked at his form at the end of last season and think it was time for a refresh anyway, but obviously it leaves United with sort of slender options, shall we say, for replacing him with Bayındır, not exactly giving people confidence that he can step into that number one shirt totally. So let's see if that does change what they're going to do in the market. I know they've been keeping tabs on John at Botafogo, but whether or not they think that this kind of injury sort of needs a replacement immediately, I don't know.
Yeah, hamstring injuries, I mean, they're difficult to, well, we don't know the extent of it, but they're difficult to put an exact time frame on. We are less than 5 weeks away from the first game against Arsenal, though, aren't we?
Yeah. So the fact that the club is not talking about surgery hopefully means Onana's not done the grade 3 tear. So that's the tear we've seen with Saka and Kai Havertz from last season.
I mean, that's months, isn't it?
That's one for months, whereas this one sounds closer to a grade 1 or grade 2 where the muscle's still on the bone, but it's damaged.
4 to 6 weeks, isn't it? I think, something like that. So,
okay, so he's there or thereabout.
He's there or thereabout. So it's pushing it right to the line. It feels a little bit like a situation between Ben Foster and Edwin van der Sar, if you remember that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to this.
A little bit, I want to say 2010, where Van der Sar was injured before the season started, and everyone sort of went, okay, well, this is Ben Foster's audition to see if he can be a number one goalkeeper for Manchester United. I think this is probably Bayındır's chance to see if he can be a number one, or can, when Onana comes back, push him to the limit for league competition. Because at the moment, we're all really been talking about Bayındır as a number two and as a cup goalkeeper up until the latter stages of the cup, so to speak. He's not number two in the same way that, say, Ortega is, or that Kelleher was at Liverpool.
Or Sergio Romero.
Or Sergio Romero was.
He's a great United example, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose this pre-season is Bayındır's chance to do that. And if he can't take that chance, a bit like Ben Foster, then you might see some movement in around the goalkeeper position later. I don't think this is an injury bad enough to put Man United to spend 30 to 40 million on a new goalkeeper right now. Unless, I'm slowly turning to Laurie as I say that, because whenever I say stuff like that, I'm always double checking. Is his eyebrows flying off his head?
No.
Let's just wait on the transfer stuff just for a moment, if you can. I know it's silly season, but let's just wait just for a sec. Andy, can Bayındır become the Manchester United number one in this window that he's got now with this injury?
From speaking to people, I know more about the goalkeeping situation. He may get the chance, but I have my doubts that he can establish himself as Manchester United's number one. I know he had that great game in the Cup at Arsenal last year, but I'm doubtful. I'm doubtful about the whole goalkeeper situation, to be honest. And for a long time in Manchester United's history, we've been pretty secure with the number one. I think we're insecure with it at the moment. I love the fact that there is a Brazilian called John. You sometimes get this.
We've had
from
our
Brazilians.
Bryan, now we've got our John, haven't we? So
you get Brazilian kids with anglicised names. So you got loads of Justins and Britneys and Kevins, Anthony, and it tends to be kids who are from favelas, and they're influenced by Western culture, if you like. So a Brazilian called John, absolutely love it.
is there any legs in the stories linking him to United. The story was on the deal sheet on The Athletic last week, where it said United were keeping tabs on him. He was pretty impressive in the Club World Cup, but actually the more that you look into his history, his career to this point, he feels much more like a number 2 than a number 1.
Yeah, I mean, he's 29, right? And so for United to go and make a bid for a goalkeeper that wasn't really known before and it kind of had only been known to the wider public this month because of a tournament that is in its infancy. Like, usually this wouldn't happen at all.
1 clean sheet against PSG. It's
there
amazing what can happen.
Well, this is it. And then, we're in that period where we've discussed this before. United are having conversations with lots of different targets in different positions. Partly to just see what's out there, partly to try and get some leverage so that when they do go for the target they want, they've at least got some other options to, present to the other club to say, well, actually, we can go a different route. And so I think it perhaps falls into that bracket where they are surveying the goalkeeping landscape and seeing what's out there. And to Carl's point, Bayındır, how secure was his own future at United? So would he be a number 2 to kind of try and push Onana a bit more than perhaps Bayındır has been able to? So
what about our Tom?
Well, there we go. This is where I'm coming to now. Tom Heaton has been, United's sort of third choice goalkeeper for 3 seasons now, and he's signed a new deal, hasn't he? That was a bit of a question, but for what he brings around the club, that's why they said, we want to keep you. You are such a great personality, an example to people. You have those little conversations with younger players coming through that are really valuable. But he did do an interview on MUTV this week where he spoke about still having that desire to play. And I know that actually under Erik ten Hag, he went and addressed him face to face because he was asking him, why am I not playing more? And this was, I think, after he'd played in the League Cup maybe or slightly before, when I think he made his debut for United as an academy graduate, the longest gap between graduating from the academy and then making your first team debut.
Yeah, because he never played the first time around, did he?
So it's crazy. But he's keeping himself sharp. He's, he played on pre-season tour last year. He played on post-season tour more recently.
He's going to play on this tour, you presume.
Yeah. So, I mean, you never know. Crazy things have happened. I mean, you think back to Andy Goran back in the day, right? In the early 2000s. And okay, I'm not sort of equating Tom Heaton to that, but I think that, strange things have happened. And if he goes and shows that he's capable of doing this, then, why not for the start of the season at least?
Yeah, obviously there's young keepers about as well, Andy. We had a question from Carey. And congratulations, Carey. You've done very well. You've managed to get 2 questions in the podcast today. So this is number 1. He asks, is this a chance for Radek Vítek to make a case for number 1 on pre-season? What do you think?
I think it's a stretch. Like the other names that have been mentioned, I think it's an area of concern. Radek is an unbelievable shot stopper. He's great on cross balls. He's competent in possession with both feet. He can be over-emotional at times. He's very, very highly rated. My understanding is not ready to be playing for Manchester United's first team. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but all I've done is speak to people, again, who know far more about the situation than I do. He's just been playing in the Austrian top flight. He's progressing well, but jumping from there to being the number 1 in a Premier League team with aspirations of being quite good in the Premier League is a big, big ask.
That was so diplomatic how you put that. I'm going to find new and interesting ways, I think we all will, to describe Manchester United's ambition and level ahead of the new season, but that's an early contender for the best way to describe Manchester United's ambitions for this season. There's Eli Harrison, of course, as well, who, would hope to be on the tour and have opportunities, so we'll see. We're only a week or so away for everyone flying out to America for that. And we'll see what happens with this goalkeeping situation. We'll talk more about it, I'm sure, on later shows. But we need to talk about our Bryan. We've managed to get through, nearly 9 minutes, I think, without talking about him just yet. Is there any chance with Manchester United taking on Leeds in Stockholm, Laurie, at the weekend that we might see him strolling the streets of Gamla Stan? Saturday afternoon before the Sunday game.
What a visual that is, It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it, if they just, managed to sort a helicopter out and he's there as a kind of dramatic entrance. Here I am, a Manchester United player, finally, kind of James Bond, Juan Mata-esque. But yeah, I mean, the word
sailing
to Stockholm. There's all forms of transport, and then hop on your bike and, cycle right into the stadium. Yeah.
Not Denmark or Amsterdam, is it?
Is it not so flat in Sweden?
I don't know. Did he cycle in Sweden? Answers on a postcard.
Andy's nodding.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure people do cycle in Sweden, but you get what I meant, yeah.
Do you like how I'm just, filibustering until I actually have to answer this
no,
question?
isn't it, basically? Yeah.
I've checked in again, at least with a couple of sources to kind of ask what the latest is. I think clubs are keeping their cards pretty close to their chest, but certainly Brentford have got a price. United haven't matched that yet. I think United feel that maybe the price has changed, but there's perhaps reasons for that in different conversations that they've had. Bryan Mbuemo, to my knowledge, is supposed to be back training this week with Brentford fully. I think there might have been some testing last week where it was present. So I wonder if, as that progresses, are United hoping that there's some kind of agitation there? There's some kind of clarity with Mbuemo wanting this move, because Phil Giles, the sporting director, said we could keep him. That's no problem. Let's see when the reality happens whether that is the case or whether there's some issues there. We've seen, I don't think it's at this stage at all, but Victor Gyökeres and Sporting, that's clearly been a split there, and he's kind of forced, and he's got the move, and Arsenal have raised their bid. So that
He's going to get booed first game of the season as well, isn't he, the Paul?
by United, do you reckon?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Would he get booed, really?
For
what?
Choose Arsenal. He can
probably
get
get booed.
booed.
2
Okay.
or 3 touches of the ball.
Okay, little pantomime boo, surely. No
Yeah.
real energy behind it.
I don't think there'd be like true animosity towards him. And Gabriel Heinze, we talked about as well, he'll be there too.
He might get booed.
Difficult to know who to boo the most, isn't it? It is Arsenal.
Just boo everyone. Yeah. But yeah, so let's see as the days go on. I think it's pretty awkward look if United go on tour to the US and Mbuemo isn't in the travelling party, which we're obviously getting quite close to, because they tried for Liam Delap. He went to Chelsea. Now he was the alternative attacker. They haven't been able to agree a fee. Amorim clearly wants reinforcements because you've got Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony, Sancho all ostracised. They're all attackers. And you've brought in Matheus Cunha. That looks good. But Bryan Mbuemo would just elevate that. And clearly Amorim is a man in a hurry. He wants players that can transform his team. Let's see.
Yeah, Carl, you've been having an argument between yourself and yourself again. It's George and Damon. It's the names that you nearly were given at birth before they picked Carl. Who won and what was their arguments?
Oh, so you got George, the more analytical side of my brain, saying United probably have enough bodies who can fill in that right side of 10 position. If the asking price is getting too high, let's pivot. Let's see if you can get Ollie Watkins or Moise Khan for cheaper, and there's enough bodies to take you through. And then there's Damon, the side of me that wears contact lenses and is a bit nicer, that's going, well, no, if United have finally decided upon a player, why would you turn around right at the last minute instead of going out and getting your absolute number one player? And I'm going back and forth, and it's okay to pay a premium for a player of Mbuemo's talent, surely.
Yeah.
If you're that convinced he's the guy, it doesn't matter if you're paying a premium.
We've been here before, though, haven't we? When we thought it was that guy.
Yep. Yeah. So this is the to and fro I'm constantly going through, in that if someone came up to me today and went, you don't get Bryan Mbuemo, but you do get Ollie Watkins, would you be happy? I'd be pulling a face a bit like, Same question to you, Laurie.
Don't. I thought you were going to just...
Hospital pass.
I don't know the answer. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I think that it's okay in this instance compared to an Anthony, compared to a Højlund.
Well, the haggling is over like a million or two, maybe. It's not like 10 or 20 million, is it?
Well, I suppose they bid 62.5, haven't they, ultimately?
It's a lot of money.
And then you wonder if Brentford do want this 70 million that, there's sort of bid from Spurs.
Wasn't the early thing that he had to be more expensive than Matheus Cunha because his numbers were better?
Yeah, that's a but then how much more expensive?
And this is the thing I'm sort of scratching my head about. Of £1.
You sound like Andy at Poundland. I think that also you look at what Anthony Elanga's gone to Newcastle for. You look at what Noni Madueke's gone to Arsenal for. Noni Madueke.
There we go.
Don't know what I was thinking there.
Noddy, I think.
That's my childhood, yeah.
How much did Big Ears go for?
So, I mean, they're like over 50 each of them. And
what, Noddy and Big Ears?
Listen, leave that one now. I don't know any more characters that I can riff off you for. And so how much is Mbuemo worth, who's just put 20 goals, in the net for Brentford? Yep. So I think you can see both sides. I think it's just awkward that it's gone on this long. It seems like it might go on a little bit further. And I think still United will ultimately end up doing it, and I think they have to, really. But it's and maybe they'll at the end of it say, listen, we waited as long as we could to try and get the price down, or I don't know, or we ultimately got 5 million off. Let's see how it actually works out. But it's clearly part of a negotiation that Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants the people that are doing it, Jason Wilcox, Matt Hargreaves, Omar Barada, to be attentive to the bottom line. And yeah, let's see how it works out.
Andy, what about sales? We any closer to selling anyone?
Just one point on signings. Looking back through what Barada said to me, there's quite an interesting quote. He said about Cunha was an important one to get done. We're going to do our best to do more signings quickly. Sometimes when you're not quick, it's because you're negotiating and you're trying to make sure you get the right value for money. So being efficient or quick isn't necessarily the best thing for the club. We also must do some player exits. That's important. So we're going to have to balance the books. So that shows the club's perspective. I don't think the player exits has moved on much since we did the last podcast. I think I won't be surprised if they went really, really late. I think the players should or could agitate in the same way that Big Bry could as well. If he turned around to Brentford and say, okay, you're not going to let me go. You've basically said to me, like Brentford do, you can use this club as a stepping stone. But one agent said to me, that is simply not true. Clubs are only interested in their players. They don't care about the players once they've moved on. He could say, right, I'm going to go to AFCON in January and let's see what I'm worth in a year's time, because his value with his contract running short would be much, much lower. So a player can dig in as well if he really, really wants to join Manchester United.
Yeah, one thing that's been forgotten a little bit, Laurie, is these individual players' own ambitions, because obviously they're available for transfer. If you listen to certain sources, they've said that they want to leave. But it's not just about getting out. It's also about getting out to the right place for the right reasons for these individuals, which is another detail which needs to be worked out.
Yeah, and I mean, I've not said this on the podcast yet, but for example, and maybe it stands to reason, but Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho, I'm told, want to play in the World Cup next year. So that's a clear ambition for them to get a club that will facilitate or aid that, or show them off in the right way, play to their strengths, be of a high enough level that their international managers pick them. I'm sure Anthony's the same, and so Marcus Rashford was in Thomas Tuchel's first squad, wasn't he, when he was playing for Aston Villa?
Raised some eyebrows, that, didn't it?
Yeah. So let's say there's obviously some affinity there between them. So he obviously wants to get that sorted, and likewise Alejandro Garnacho. Now, I think they're slightly different with the Bryan Mbuemo case because he's involved with Brentford. They've already been told they can't, come into first team training by United. Really, that's ultimately what's happened, because Amrin doesn't want them around the first team picture. He wants his own players that are all kind of, as he sees it, playing by the rules and doing what he wants. So, and creating a good atmosphere. But so I think it's slightly different because United have already there's no agitation really for them to do now. But what it does mean is, I think they have to be sort of, taking a role in this themselves, and maybe it means that they ultimately accept slightly less money, or they they really work their agent hard to say, I really need this deal here, and they they aid United in that way. It's not necessarily all United going to the the potential buying club or loaning club and saying, how about it, so that they need to have some agency themselves to then make their situations better, because no football player wants to be training in a gym on their own, kicking the ball on their own. It's not a nice environment, I don't think, and that's clearly what they're currently in at the moment.
Just before we move it on, there was a in and out question over Rasmus Højlund. We
Yes.
sort of did the Højlund hokey cokey between you and Andy. There's been an update on the hokey cokey from your perspective, Laurie. You've taken a very deep breath.
Yes.
You're looking at me pensively.
No, and I
Andy's
wonder if,
smiling.
I know, I think Andy might currently now have the edge on his predictions of what might happen here, because obviously Inter have gone and signed a player who's 21 years old, a striker from Parma, Bonnie. Not Boniface, as Andy was sort of wondering before we started recording.
Or Wilfred Bonney,
Bonney
whose
from back in the day.
brought back memories. Yeah,
Yeah, no, he's at the other end of the age spectrum to Wilfred Bonney. Very
could
much
be
in
his son. I have no idea, but it could be. Yeah.
It's spelled differently, so I don't.
Oh, fair enough.
Double N. But yeah, so he's in the same kind of age bracket as Rasmus Højlund, though, who obviously Inter were interested in. I'm told that is no longer the case in terms of a permanent buy for Rasmus Højlund.
Okay. So we're more
yeah.
in than out now, are we?
I'm going to be really annoyed if I have to eat humble pie with Andy Mitten. He's the one person that I want to shove a humble pie in the face of.
Okay.
If we could get
we could do that at the live shows, maybe.
We could do that at live shows, yeah.
Yeah.
5 tickets now.
Before you decide whether to put your left arm in or your right arm out, let's talk about something else. Let's talk a bit more about pre-season. Right, so we've previewed it a little bit. United back in action on a football field at the weekend against Leeds in Stockholm. It's on Sunday. It's going to be Andy Mitten's first weekend, you said, Andy, watching live football again between now and the middle of June 2026, and that will come without a break. Is that right?
Yeah. This weekend was... I'll be watching football, or at least under pressure to go to live football games. Most of them Manchester United, a lot of them for work as well, around wherever, but also my youngest daughter. So I took note of that I wasn't going to a game.
I'm loving the fact that he's saying it till mid-June. There's a World Cup in mid-June next year, mate.
Yeah. Carl, I'd not even thought of that angle, whether I'm even going to the World Cup or not. So
he's so dedicated to Man United. He forgot his day off is going to align with the...
None of that international nonsense.
None of that World Cup knockout nonsense. Amazing. This is the fun thing about football, just constantly being forever. In that,
is it fun? Oh, there's too much.
It's fun in both senses of the word. You consider Chelsea last season, or the thing we've been calling last season, only just finished for Chelsea this morning with the Club World Cup, and yet everyone's back in, and it's
they get 3 weeks off now.
It's knackering. Knackering. If you're Fred Valverde, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Andy, out of interest, what did you do with your final football-free weekend?
I went to that traditional Spanish fishing village of Magaluf in Mallorca, where I joined my brother and 29 Manchester lads, of which 25 were probably United and 4 City. So that's an accurate representation of. It was enlightening. They didn't go to study the poetry of Robert Graves in the Mallorcan mountains, and
did you? That's the question.
Well, I mean, I took a book. I wanted to read, and I was an outsider straight away just by the fact that I took 2 books. And they just looked at me like I was a complete weirdo. But that's just me. I'm not going to change, am I? I'm just going to get worse.
2 books?
Did you finish them?
No, I didn't even start. One of them was about the D-Day landings called Sword. I didn't even get stuck into that. And I took a Mark Twain novel, and I looked back at it the next day, and someone had just ripped off part of the cover, and I think they'd used it as some sort of accompaniment to some sort of cigarette. So, there's the evidence, boys. I'm not even joking.
He's not. Oh my goodness!
So you've been in Magaluf this weekend smoking books.
Magaluf is an extremely interesting place.
Okay.
What was the earliest you went to sleep?
I was the first. My brother actually said he briefed all his mates. He said, our Andy doesn't drink that much. He will be the first to go home, but he's quite interesting and he'll tell you good stories. I don't know whether that's a compliment or a dig. I went home at
accurate,
2:30, having diffused an argument between said lads and a group of handy-looking lads from Luton. And
okay.
I basically calmed that one down by asking them if they were Luton and went to the match, and they said they did. I said, where'd you sit in Kenilworth Road? And they looked at me at first like I was a knob. And then one of them went F stand, and I went, what, near the flag? And he was stunned that I knew their flag. And then I managed to just calm him down. I said that I'd met Mick Harford, their club legend, Gary Sweet, their So
Harry Styles, all of them.
Yeah, Harry Styles was the money for United.
With Mick Hartford, wasn't it? That's why he came to mind.
That's romance.
I had a bit of a mixed weekend. I spent Friday night watching Oasis in Heaton Park, and I spent Saturday dressed as Marshall from Paw Patrol at a kid's party. So, you've got to make the most of your last football-free weekend in forever, like Carl said before.
Did you do the Poznan at Oasis?
Not in the Marshall outfit, no.
That's not a no.
No, I did not do the Poznan. Laurie, the fact you even have to ask me that question.
I just want to check. You know, you might get caught up in the atmosphere. You know, how many years has it been since you've seen Oasis? 20 odd?
16 years.
So you saw them when they broke up. Okay,
Yeah.
so, you know, you might get invigorated by everyone doing it in front of your face.
No.
It is one of the most annoying things when you're at the Etihad and you're in the press box.
They obviously did it to irritate
Well,
the United fans in the crowd because there was a lot of chants of United and boos for when he said Pep Guardiola's the greatest manager of all time.
he was there, wasn't he, on Friday? He was there.
Well, and Grayson himself in Mancunian culture more than anyone else, according to certain elements of social media.
Yeah.
He's obviously designed to wind people up.
But I
It's
also
Liam at
heard
the
that he
end
was
of the day,
quite
innit?
sympathetic to United. He said, "Oh, we love you all, even you United fans."
Yeah, he did.
Did he? So
Yeah.
he knows. You know, you're not going to turn away half your fan base, are you?
No.
Maybe more than.
No. And you've seen him a lot, haven't you?
Oasis, yeah. I you know, like you get bored by people saying I saw a band in a really snobbish way when there were two people there.
You're going to do it, aren't you?
I'm going to do it because I remember a lad from the match called Rob Brundish coming up to me saying, I've got a demo tape here of a band who were brilliant, and I listened to it, and they were. And then I told a lad at the match called Sid, I said, have you heard of this band Oasis? And he just laughed at me because they were his mates, like proper mates. Like Noel and Liam have spoken about Sid, and he's been around the world with them. And then the next night, I was with him and we went to Wolverhampton. There were like only a few hundred people there, and I was just blown away. And I watched them so much. And then the first album came out. I watched them in the Hacienda in Manchester, Earls Court, Sheffield, got bigger and bigger until Nebworth in 96. That was the night before the Charity Shield. So loads of United lads went to Nebworth. Loads of them were working tickets as well outside Nebworth. So it was really interesting seeing the rise and the rise. And I remember, I love the B-sides. I brought all the records. We wrote about them in United We Stand before the first album. We called the article Oasis, Manchester Lads Doing Well. Of course, not every United fan ended up loving Oasis. And while you mentioned Guardiola, he wore denim shorts. For a cool man, that is not a good look.
Tell him.
I love that that's what he's picking him up on. I remember the one time that I went to see him, it was at Old Trafford Cricket Ground, but because they hated United, they refused to have Old Trafford on the ticket, so it was called Lancashire County Club Cricket Ground, which was a right mouthful.
Yeah.
I was only about 14. It was a great gig.
Yeah. Very, very good. What, do you two get up for anything interesting?
Just went to the pub, really.
Yeah.
Just trying to make the most of the fact that I can do it.
Trying to avoid any football conversation.
Yes, I watched maybe fleeting moments of the Club World Cup final.
Yeah.
Although I did watch all of Netherlands versus France in Women's Euros.
Laurie?
Barbecue, family barbecue,
right,
yeah. So all kinds of family.
Getting it in before your holiday.
Well, this is it. But no, listen. You say the wrong thing, you misspeak one time.
Yeah. He's told his missus that the pre-season tour was a holiday by mistake.
No, I didn't. I just said I need to pack
He's
for,
finished.
and I used the wrong word because I'd just come back from Greece and
On
anyway.
an actual holiday with your family. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
That's okay. We'll move it on swiftly. Speaking of pre-season, what we wanted to do was pick out who we wanted to keep an eye on, because basically, obviously, it starts with Leeds at the weekend, like we said. It's then going to be the tour in America, which is Laurie's holiday in about a week's time. So basically, we wanted to ask the lads who they've got an eye on, because usually through these tours, Carl, you see players stick their hands up that maybe weren't necessarily in contention before. You've spoken about Sekou Kone a little bit on the shows recently. So is he the one in particular you've got your eye on, or is there anyone else who you think might put their hand up as well?
I think Kone's my pre-season one to watch. Last season, it became, at least to me, Toby Collier became a pre-season one to watch. Be interested to see how he keeps going and integrating in Emery's system. But one I want to talk about is Laurie Whitwell's mate, Harry Amas. A particular friend of the podcast and the podcast mailbags, everyone going, why not play Harry Amas? When is Harry Amas arriving? How is Harry Amas developing? Well, pre-season's the time to check.
The mailbag has been amassed with Amas
Truly,
several times in the past, yeah.
And this is a player that Luke Shaw spoke effusively of last summer when he was out in Germany for the Euros with England. He said he really believed Harry Amas.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
Was going to be someone who could break through. And I think the big one for him, for Amas, is the physical adjustment. I think there were 2 or 3 games when he was given finally gets a run out against Leicester City, and he had 2 or 3 bits to play towards the end of last season. But there were 2 or 3 goals in particular going, that's not because you've done the wrong decision, that's because the other person is just bigger than you and just decide to run through you. So how he walks into pre-season, that'll be really interesting for me.
He got minutes last year, didn't he?
Yeah, and
Pretty
then,
prominently.
Yeah, and then the question was, why is he then not part? But then he wasn't part of the Community Shield, was he, against City, which was the big kind of question mark. So
that's when the mailbag first started bulging with Amas. Yeah.
Well, and then he's since done a masterclass in youth development this
Look at
season.
that. Oh.
So he's the young player of the year, I think I'm right in saying. So
made his first team debut at Leicester.
First team debut. And obviously you've got that left wing back role, haven't you, where Dorgu's there, Diego Leon is saying he's going to kill it in pre-season. I'd love if Harry Amas just came out as well as like, I'm going to really kill it.
I'll see you kill it, and I'll raise you a really kill it.
I'm going to kill it in a really gruesome way.
Yeah. Get them head to head like a boxing weigh-in. Yeah.
Well, yeah, him and Luke Shaw, obviously the head to head. I kind of see them as the Spider-Man gif where they just play so similarly. And they look quite similar. And actually, it was Luke Shaw's birthday the other day, wasn't it? And Bruno Fernandes did a really nice post about him, which kind of stood out to me.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he just said a great human and kind of like, usually you sort of think, okay, teammates being nice to teammates is one thing, but I don't know. I thought it was quite pointed that Bruno kind of made a point of wishing him a happy birthday in that way.
Nice. Andy, who've you got your eye on?
I'd like to see Chido Obi continue to progress. I thought he did very well against checks notes Hong Kong after the
turn the match
season.
around, Andy.
Yeah, and Shea Lacey as well. So Chido's only 17 still. Shea Lacey is 18. I was in the room when Shea Lacey signed his contract in April 24. Scouse lad, good backstory. His brothers are boxers and footballers, and I think he's hugely talented, and we've seen little glimpses of that in Czech's notes Kuala Lumpur. I don't know whether he'll go and whether he'll feature, but they will be two. I'm open-minded. Anyone who stands out and does well against Premier League opponents. So this is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
You're playing against Premier League opponents, and if you can do that, then you are showing something. So looking forward to it all and spending time with Mr. Whitwell in the United States.
On holiday.
I knew you were going to say
on his holiday. I'll be working.
Laurie, who've you got your eye on?
Can I just shoehorn in my interview?
Why not? The whole reason we did this section.
Let's give it a brilliant thank you. Ayden Heaven is who I've got my eye on.
Still a youngster?
I think so. Yeah, I know it kind of feels like he's maybe already beyond that point.
Cheating a little bit, but that's
fine. Because you kind of want, I agree with Andy. I mean, Shea Lacey, for example, is somebody that you've heard a lot about through the years, hasn't had that much exposure because he's been injured as well. But I really liked what he was doing on tour, the kind of some of the little movements. He didn't get loads of minutes actually, but I think he played first half against Hong Kong, for example. But yeah, so he's one that definitely qualifies. But Ayden Heaven, I just think that it could be a real breakthrough season for him because you've got Lisandro Martinez still.
It's a lot of competition, isn't there?
There is a lot. I hadn't sort of figured it out really when we were speaking, and so for him to even have played. He only played 6 games in the end for United second half of the season, which was still more than he expected, but obviously it was less than he could have got because he got injured for a large portion in the end. And but now, you're thinking of him in that bracket really of first choice central defenders. And I think the thing is, Ruben Amorim has been so complimentary about him, and he is quite cautious about doing that with a young player because he understands already, I think, the exposure that you get, the scrutiny, the pressure that it brings, the kind of eyeballs on your social media feeds, that kind of stuff. So he doesn't want to, I think, get carried away. But I think he's given a couple of little comments that show that he does really believe in this kid. And I found him, good company. He's doesn't waste his words, let's say. He's quite economical with what he says, but his mum was there as well, Lisa, who's also a qualified agent and represents him. So
a business owner in Essex as well.
Beauty salon. So,
when is your manicure going to be?
I'm thinking I might need a little mani and pedi before my work trip to the USA. And she was great personality. You can see that she's clearly fought for him his whole life, really, because he's had rejection, at different levels. West Ham released him at 12. He had a trial at Chelsea. I
didn't know that backstory.
Tottenham. Yeah, so he's had a few opportunities to go different places. And obviously, in the end, Arsenal was where he had his grounding. But it's been pretty accelerated. And I was fascinated to hear that it was Per Mertesacker that had basically said to him, "You're a centre-back." His mum had a bit of, a riposte to that to sort of say, what do you know? And he's like, well, I did win the World Cup at centre-back. And ultimately she's like, yeah, he saw something in him that I don't think anybody else really saw.
No, because he was more of a forward, yeah.
Yeah, started as a striker, winger. And you sort of look at him and think, you look like a centre-back because you're so tall, but he obviously was a midfielder. She thought at that point he was 16, box-to-box midfielder, and Mertesacker said, no, go in central defence. And even his first training session with Arsenal's first team when he was 16, I think he just signed schoolboy terms, was as a midfielder against like Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. So he's had a pretty good grounding at that level, and he's clearly a pretty calm guy. So, going on tour, seeing the glamour of USA. He's obviously done the postseason tour already. And that was actually one thing that I thought was really interesting. He was genuinely, it felt to me, blown away by the atmosphere at Old Trafford for that Rangers game, for example.
That was the best bit of the interview for me.
It was good, yeah. Did you like that? Because I know players will say things like that because it's just part of the job, right? You kind of big up the fans.
It was the specific game. It was the way he described the way it felt.
Yeah.
It's not just like, the atmosphere's great and the fans are great.
Yeah.
There was actual genuine detail there. So he's not just saying it for the sake of it.
And he pushed back on other things that I'd said to him, that he was like, nah, you're talking rubbish there.
Imagine that happened quite a bit. Yeah.
Such as like, did you feel pressure when your mum was in the crowd for that Arsenal game and all the mates and colleagues from the beauty salon? He was like, no. So
Really?
I like that. So anyway, yeah, I just think he came across well to me. Hopefully he can keep going because obviously he's at a young stage and he's got a lot of development to do still.
Yeah, one to watch for Laurie, of course, on this pre-season tour. We've had a lot of questions about pre-season. We'll talk about it a little bit more on future shows, including exactly what to expect out in America. But I wanted to get into this, actually. This is Carey's second question. Again, congratulations, Carey. He says, what's everyone's most memorable pre-season performance? A couple come to my mind from recent times. So he's picked out United versus LA Galaxy in 2014, Louis van Gaal's inaugural match and Ander Herrera's debut. I thought we'd hit the jackpot, winning the International Champions Cup and defeating Liverpool in Miami. I thought for sure that 21 was coming. And then he's picked out July 2019, which was United's tour to Australia, Singapore and China. The link-up play between Rashford, Martial and Greenwood was very good and us battering Leeds. Chef's kiss. Carl, what sticks out to you? Louis van Gaal's pre-season champions.
Louis van Gaal pre-season champions was great. There's Mourinho's just anger at the pre-season failures in 2016.
Oh, what?
2018.
Was it? Yeah,
No?
2018.
There's
Yeah.
2018.
On his way out.
On his way out, it's 2018. There's 2018
even
one. He's
2016.
going, oh, he's definitely not lasting the season. But there's one in 2016 where they go to China, they play Dortmund, and they lose 4-1. And there's a goal in it, and Mourinho is livid.
So he's brand new at this point as well.
But
Yeah,
he's December livid. He's
December 2018 livid.
He's December 2018
July
livid in like
2016.
July 2016. I remember,
I think he was quite happy by December 2018, sitting in the late part of it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
and I think his pre-season, his post-match, he says words of, obviously they're going to beat us. It's simple. And he said it's simple and it's very obvious that we're going to beat us because he was annoyed at the fact that the Dortmund game was like United's only second pre-season tour.
Well, was that the one where they had the match cancelled against Man City for the
weather?
The bad weather.
It might have been that
That
one.
was in
So this
China.
one sticks out. And it was sometimes it's the defeats in the preseason that really stick out.
Yeah.
Like when you get walloped and you just sat there going, don't get angry.
The angry Mourinho pre-season, I can still see his face at the press conferences. He's absolutely furious with life at that point. It's no wonder that.
And it's great. Look how angry he is at a pre-season defeat. This is what we need.
Yeah.
No,
he's
but
going-
you do get a little bit of a preview of what's coming in the season often. Not always, like we say with Louis van Gaal's pre-season champions, but you do sometimes get a tone that's set in the pre-season that can carry itself into the proper football.
A good one was Ten Hag's victory over Liverpool.
No, that's my one. You can't steal that.
Okay,
You've had your one.
I'll be quiet.
Well, you can both talk about it together. That's the beauty of
No,
podcasting.
this is
No, you go on, Carl.
That's my one.
I think it was 20 minutes into that game. So I went into town into Northern Court to watch it. I had a very nice conversation with a lad who opened up his bar earlier so I could watch it. And 20 minutes into that game, United they like overloaded the left side to free up the back post for Wan-Bissaka. And I'm looking at it going, that's Ajax. Ten Hag's making, and it was a real, oh, yes, all of the writing I've done about how United are going to play next season, it's all falling into place. I was like, finally, I'm not a fraud.
So I love that was your reaction. It's about you and validation almost, rather than necessarily United humping Liverpool.
Yeah, that was
4-0.
nice. That was nice, but it was also, sweet vindication.
Yeah. I know what you mean there, to be fair. Yeah, I've had stories like that.
That was your one.
Well, no, I'm going to just adorn it with more information.
you were there.
I was in Bangkok watching it,
Nice when you play together.
the after
Shared
effects
toys.
of a scorpion going through my digestive system from the night before on
You ate a
Koh San Road.
scorpion.
You're in Thailand. Let's it's apparently it's not even a delicacy in Thailand. It's
I've
obviously
been
just a
to Thailand,
tourist
I
trap.
didn't see any scorpions on
I just
sale.
thought it's something to do.
Yeah.
I like to. I know that Andy Mitten has created this perception of me as a guy that just goes abroad and eats chips, but when I go to these
What
countries,
were the chips like over
the
there?
chips fantastic. Fries, all different kinds, triple cooked. But I like to try the local cuisine. And I
Sure.
thought it was a local cuisine, and then I subsequently found out it was obviously just someone on Koh San Road selling scorpions for a gimmick, and you pay a little bit and you eat it and you get a picture. Whatever. But then the game was the perfect antidote to that. It was like you had Martial, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno Fernandes. What a front four that was. And kind of they're all interlinking, and then Pellistri comes on. Ahmad, I think, came on and did really well. So you're sort of thinking, this could work. And it's just off the back of Erik ten Hag giving a training session where he's shouted triangles repeatedly and everyone's getting very excited about that.
Hexagons.
Well, that was the next step.
Yeah.
We never got to
Okay.
hexagons, I don't think. But yeah, so that one stands out for me as a pre-season game to reflect on.
The trophy was the two-hander, and it had a button. And if you, so
It had a button.
It had a button. So they gave it to Ten Hag and they gave it to Fernandes, and they both had, because it was so big, they both had to hold a corner of it.
Who got to press the button?
And then I can't remember, but someone pointed out there was a button that they had to press so it would light up.
It lit up.
It lit up. It lit up.
I don't remember that.
The Bangkok International Cup, was it? It was something like that, and everyone was
Yeah,
getting giddy. You'll
Century
never
Cup.
sing that.
So,
Century Cup,
what, you
okay.
pressed the button and the thing lit up?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it was sort of illuminated.
Yeah.
Were
I
the
did.
floodlights not enough?
I'm just gonna stay calm and not. You've tickled me.
I didn't mean to. Well, they did, but yeah.
Not excessively.
Well, I know the perfect way to calm down because this answer's going to go on a while. Andy, any pre-season memories you'd like to share?
No, I've never been on any, mate.
No. I think you may have been on more pre-seasons in more countries than anyone else alive. Is that possible?
Well, you never forget your first time. Mine was in Norway in '91. Crowd of only 6,500, which shows the nature of how they've changed. I got asked
Like Chelsea
if
tours.
I got asked if I was Lee Sharp a couple of times on those trips.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
I was with lads who were probably known to the authorities who were. I was listening to conversations like how good Swedish jails were, and they took advantage of that. And I'm like, whoa, I'm entering a different world. A year later, we went back to Norway, and Sir Alex Ferguson invited us all out for a night out with his players. So I'm trying to keep up on pints with, Mark Hughes and people like that.
Times have changed.
Times have
you take a book?
totally changed. Oh, I would have been reading. I remember I'm doing myself absolutely no favours here, but I remember writing a letter back to my girlfriend telling her of all the places I'd been, and I got back to Manchester and she dumped me. So that was I was like, Trondheim, population, brackets, 210,000, so maybe she's...
that was the contributing factor, was it?
Been lucky to see so many around the world, in South Africa. Going to the States in 2003 was a really big deal. And that year, United battered Juventus, and it was a brilliant performance. I was there for the huge crowd in Ann Arbor against Real Madrid. I think it was 109,000. It's still the biggest
a record,
crowd.
that, isn't it?
Yeah. And the Spanish newspapers photoshopped the image to make it look like there were more Real Madrid fans there. And I just thought, whoa, because there were more Man United fans there. Just as there were slightly more Liverpool fans there when United went back to that stadium 2018. And that was when Jose Mourinho said, I wouldn't pay money to watch my team. And he changed his tune big time the next day because he got told off by the promoters. And you could just tell on that tour, especially in LA, he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be manager of Manchester United. And I actually found it really offensive because I'm trying to report on the team, and you drive across LA, it take you 80 minutes or something to go, a kilometre in LA. And Mourinho would just be there snarling, and I just thought, I actually want to back you. I really want to support you. I want you to be a success here, but you clearly do not want to be here. And then you go to the mad places, your Hong Kongs and Beijings and Australia. It's always huge support for Manchester United. The Tour of '99 is probably the one the players like the best because it just won the treble. Because Fergie wasn't there, that's why they liked it
Fergie wasn't
best.
there. McLaren was in charge.
So they just totally ignored him and went out drinking every night. And
how did Sir Alex Ferguson not go on a pre-season tour? Can you imagine if that actually happened now? That Amorim's just like, yeah, forget it, lads, I'm going on holiday.
he just won the treble, so he could basically do what he wanted.
Okay,
Thought,
yeah, true.
I'm not going to have that. And then the players were just going out, beating teams. Dwight York fell asleep during training in the middle of the pitch in the MCG. Is Dwight York asleep there in the middle of this training session? Yeah, he is. But some wonderful
Sleep's
times.
part of recuperation.
Yeah, from a heavy night the night before. But it never fails to amaze me how popular my local team are. I find it a real privilege to go to places like Bangkok in '96. The players literally couldn't leave the hotel. It was Beatlemania. It was incredible. And even, Jordi Cruyff came from Barcelona and he was like, whoa, we never had this with Barca. Man United are just so big. And you spoil if you've grown up in Manchester because you're only a bus ride away from going to the games. And you'd meet people, and even en route to pre-seasons, I remember stopping in Pakistan a couple of years ago, and you see these people who dream of going to one game at Old Trafford and can't for various reasons. They can't get a visa, for example. And I think that's a real privilege to see how popular Manchester United are and still are around the world. You've got your sweet spots where they're always going to go, where there's money, let's be honest, Scandinavia, United States. But when you go to other places as well, maybe en route, it's incredible to see.
Yeah, we'll see what this summer brings. But let's talk about shirt numbers. Andy Mitten, what's in a shirt number?
Depends who you ask, and I'm interested what you three say. I think it matters to some players. It doesn't matter to others. Commercially, it's actually a big deal. Manchester United have made a big thing of the fabled number 7, but even that's strewn with inconsistencies. George Best wore 11 more times than he wore 7. And what United have done really well is monetize numbers on the back of the shirt. So Cunha's shirt went on sale last Tuesday with the number 10 on the back. It's £85 for an adult and another £20 with all the numbers and the names on the back. And I did some research into this for the article, and Cristiano Ronaldo coming back was by a distance the most popular shirt. The queues were going back to hotel football. That even caught Manchester United out. Marcus Rashford has been a bestseller until a couple of years ago. Younger fans tend to go for younger players. Attacking players are far more popular in terms of having the names put on the back of supporters. And it's really fickle as well. It can change within weeks. If a player's doing well, it's very much an emotional investment when players are in the mega store and they see a shirt and they go, I'll have him because he did really well last month. And in my research, I found out, Juan Sebastian Veron was outselling Ruud van Nistelrooy by 4-1 when he came. So he really cut the mood of the supporters. So you can see when the fans are excited, it does commercialise itself and monetize itself. Ed Woodward basically went to the Glazers for Cristiano's return and said, I've done the numbers here. And he had done the numbers because he knew just how popular Cristiano was and is.
Yeah, it was the other stuff that caused the issue in the end. The shirt sales were still going particularly well, no matter what happened with Ronaldo back at Old Trafford. This has caused some controversy, though, over the years, hasn't it? And we've seen this week that obviously we knew Cunha would be the new number 10, but we've seen Dalot swap. Some of the young kids have been given different numbers, upgraded numbers. It's the way that you see how well someone's doing, how low their number gets as you head into the next season. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one that you might be referring to Anthony Martial when he got it taken off him.
Yeah.
For Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he
lost the
turned
9.
up.
Yeah.
And then gave it away to Lukaku a year later. That 9 got passed around mad at that point.
Yeah, that must have grated Martial even more. It was in his social media
he's
profile,
spoken
wasn't
about
it?
it before, I believe.
Yeah.
So he didn't enjoy that a 9 being taken away from him.
Well, I remember his agent saying explicitly that it had affected him, having the number taken away from him.
Yeah, the numbers mean a lot. I mean, there's always the joke that David Beckham talks about when he's being phoned up by Sir Alex saying, so I'm taking away number 10 from you. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, 'cause I'm giving you 7. He's like, oh, great bit of man management there. all of a sudden, all sort of conversation about United and shirt numbers. I've got Tom Cleverley stuck in my head.
23.
TC 23. He made a real. There was a big website all about that. He was so proud to be wearing 23. And then Højlund was asked about his recent shirt number trajectory last season, and then when we saw it, well, what inspired you to pick 11? And he went, I'm keeping that to myself for now. And I'm like, okay. So there's something there with Højlund's shirt number that he's waiting one day to explain to us, but we'll see.
And Cavani got his taken off him, didn't he? For Ronaldo, 7 for 7.
Special dispensation from the Premier League to get that done.
That was an awkward one between them, I think. I think that, again, perhaps sowed the seed of Cavani being a bit miffed. And that's so I think you can look at it and think, come on, you're being silly here. It's a shirt number. But I think it's psychologically maybe players then just are impacted because they think the club aren't looking after them in a certain way. Again, I would say to a player, you need to just be, in charge of your own destiny, really. But clearly there's an element that's going to be bruising for them, like there will be for Rashford, right? He's had number 10 taken off him, when he's still at the club. It's an awkward look, and I think that is quite a brutal sort of treatment of him, really. But obviously the club feel that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Rashford. The 10 meant a lot to him. I mean, talk about trajectory. He started for 39, goes to 19 because Van Gaal said every striker needs to have a number 9 on their shirt.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's why he went to 39 to 19. And 10 meant a lot to him. But I suppose this is United getting unsentimental about that relationship, and Marcus Rashford is now an asset that they're trying to sell rather than a football player or an academy player. So it's over to Cunha, and Cunha has spoken. The fact they brought up Ibrahimovic wearing the 10 was they're all like, you've been watching United games recently. Well done. Not just the super famous ones. You're also going for the post-Ferguson ones as well. So that impressed me.
Yeah, and Zlatan had his own way of selling the shirt number change, which he wrote about in the article, Andy.
Yeah, he basically said it's an upgrade. And when you look at the history of football, going from 9 to 10, well, some of the best players ever, from Maradona and Platini, have worn the number 10. So he can compartmentalise that in his own mind. There is ego, as Laurie touches on, and it's perception as well. If you feel that you're becoming less of a figure, but there's also a commercial aspect from the players. CR7 is a brand name. It's all about his name, and these people take this with them. There's some really interesting side angles to that as well. And Tom Cleverley, 23, you mentioned. I think Tom would readily admit the people around him got a bit carried away by having his own website. When he'd only played a handful of games, because he's actually a really nice lad from a really good family. But the look of it was not a good look. It was like, first of all, learn to walk before you start running. And now you're seeing shirts being retired. You're seeing increasingly higher squad numbers as well. Michael Carrick's view was, you're taking over Roy Keane's shirt. Is that a big issue for you? He's like, I could not give a monkeys.
That's the spirit, Michael. Love that. But it's been brilliant to do it again with you on Talk of the Devils. Those of you new to us on YouTube, welcome. Our old friends from podcasting, hello to everyone. Thank you again for being with us. If you've not seen it already, there is now our TikTok and Instagram accounts, which are TOT Devils. Obviously, if you've not seen this on YouTube, there's also our YouTube channel now, the same name, TOT Devils. And you can email us, devilspod@theathletic.com. But it's been brilliant to do it with you. So thank you very much. Laurie, Carl, Andy, cheers. Thanks for watching the show. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, most importantly, and click that bell so you never miss an episode of Talk of the Devils.